Well, good morning, everybody. Mark Westcott here, and today very excited to have Jim Twentyman of Aged Care Facts with me. G'day, Jimmy. How are you?
Good morning, Mark. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
How long have we known each other?
I think you're a tiny little 9-year-old lying on your dorm bed in Southport years ago.
No, that's right. No, Jim, another ex-TSS lad, very successful lad out of TSS back all those years ago. But these days, Jim's running a business called Aged Care Facts, and we'll get to that in a little while, Jimmy. But I just want to point out right from the beginning, because I know Mum always watches these shows, and she always asks me, "Is this the Twentyman that won the Westcott Trophy at school?" And so, Mum, just to let you know that that was his brother Doug. Doug was the overachiever, not Jim.
Yes, see this guy? He's not the one.
But no, Jim, very successful in your time at school too. But I just want to start, Jim, with a question which you're probably not prepared for, but your life at the Southport School. Tell me, how did that influence your life to this point in time? That having the opportunity for that sort of an upbringing.
As you know, my parents lived in Fiji, so it was quite a way away from my parents at home. So it taught me independence from a very early age. So I could travel on my own from Fiji to Australia to Southport, and had to stand on my own 2 feet. And that was early, so there was just a big life lesson that put me ahead of many who left their family bosom a lot later. Mind you, got to know my parents very well in the latter days after school and so on, so that's all good. But just a great circle of friends and people that once you know them at TSS, you know them for life, really, and that's the other benefit.
Absolutely. I think you and I are probably both in the same boat. Most of the mates we have these days are friends we had when we were at boarding school, and in a lot of ways they're like family. So people often ask me, did you suffer by going away to boarding school at an early age? And I thought, wow, it was probably the best thing could have happened to me. Being the youngest in the family, for me, I was left at home, and whilst Mum was a great teacher, she was my teacher and playmate and everything for the whole year that I was left by myself, because Bruce had gone off to boarding school as well.
Yeah.
For me, it was just fantastic to be able to get away to boarding school. 2 of my brothers were there when I turned up, and I've just got all these mates were like family, and as I say, and you're the same, Jimmy. A lot of your closest friends now are guys that we were at school with. So it's made a huge impact, I know, on both our lives.
Yeah, and I certainly know that we had 4 of us at boarding school at one stage, so it was a big strain on my dear parents. So I'm eternally grateful to them for that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, and same. So one of the things when we first started off Tea and Scones about this time last year, Jim, it must be just a little bit over a year ago that Tea and Scones first started. The whole concept was to start the week off with positivity, gratitude, motivation, and so on. And a lot of the earliest people that I interviewed, we really just focused on that as a topic. And as I said, we're going to come back to your business, Aged Care Facts, and what you're doing to help people who are entering that time in life. What is it you do, Jim, on a weekly, monthly basis to stay motivated, positive, to make sure you show gratitude and so on in your life? Have you any lessons that you've learned that work for you that you'd like to impart to other people?
Over the last decade or so, I had a long career in the macadamia nut industry, and 10 years ago moved down the coast. So I've learned and really enjoyed the challenge of just finding things to do. So I've got involved in wine exports to China, and got involved in a beef business and some consulting, supported by a wonderful family and grandchildren and dear wife, and just being able to get out of bed every day with a new challenge ahead, and just build your life in an enjoyable way for the future keeps me going.
Absolutely. And your latest interest, as say Aged Care Facts, you've spent a lot of time studying, and for an old bloke like you, and I can say that because you're a year older than me, for an old bloke like you, how did you find, a couple of years ago when you went back into study to get your financial planning accreditation and so on, and to be up to speed, so to speak, in regard to this industry you're doing very well in?
To be honest, it was initially very daunting, and I never thought I'd be going back to uni again, as much as I enjoy learning on a day-to-day basis. But it was, in the end, a really enlightening experience, in that I learnt a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and was able to get through with some flying colours, with some distinctions and credits under my belt, and got through it all last year, and it was quite a satisfying experience, really, and something I could probably do again if I was really pushed in another field.
That's right. It's interesting when you went through university the first time. I think for all of us at the time, at that age, anything more than a pass meant you didn't have your life in balance.
Yeah,
You're spending too much time.
All my friends, including you, kept telling me that I was obviously working far too hard at the study, getting better than a pass.
That's right. What are these distinction things, Jim?
Yeah, correct.
But anyway, I guess the upside of that is you did do very well in the studies that you've done, and in regard to the topic that we're going to talk about, what you're doing today, knowing everything is really critical, because when people come to you, and you've got a business called Aged Care Facts, you need to know all the facts, and certainly I know you've been dealing with a lot of people. You've been able to help a number of families and so on, and I guess the sort of people that are coming to you, Jim, it's probably more the children, is it, that first approach you and wanting to know how they can help their mum and dad, because it is a difficult time in life when, if parents need to go into care, it's a difficult time from everyone's point of view. Is it the children normally are the first ones to come to the table?
Look, generally that was the target audience, but let me just go back a bit, because I'm a child who's put my parents through home aged care and into residential aged care, or the old nursing home type care. And I have been in business all my life, and I've got a commercial background, and I think I know how business works, but got to this juncture, the third stage of life, and it was really a black hole for me, and a lot of terms and RADs and means test care fees and all that sort of stuff. And
sorry, what are you saying?
Yeah, that's right. I'll stop there because you'll go to sleep. But just a huge black hole, and I was surprised, and so were my family. So we got some advice which really opened our eyes, and that's when I saw the opportunity. So we met this guy as a family with my parents, and that I saw as the target market, just getting people prepared for that stage of life and just explaining how it all works. But to date, I've just had such a range of customers, clients, that from people finding themselves in hospital and all of a sudden incapacitated, unable to go to work, people who live just recently far away without the support, so trying to relocate to a place with more care available. Just had a range of people. One partner's passed away and the other partner's been left alone, so they needed some help getting into the next stage. So, but really, the ideal situation for me would be to discuss the journey ahead with the family, explain how it all works, what the costs are, how they can do it, and be prepared. And that just makes that next phase a lot less stressful and less anxious for the family, and particularly the parents.
Yeah, so that's really what inspired you down the path of getting involved in aged care, was your own parents' experience, wasn't it? And
very much so. Yeah.
Sadly, your dad has since passed away, and that's very, very sad, Jimmy. But you were able to be involved, to understand how best to make sure they had all the facilities and capabilities for them during your dad's last time too.
Yeah, look, and the government's very supportive about supporting old people staying at home, and it's something that I strongly endorse, because once you enter into residential care, it's a bit of a one-way street usually. So my parents had the pleasure of having support at home with their care needs, with their old age and medical care, till they were in 91 or 92 at that age.
Yep.
And I would strongly encourage anyone who can to stay at home with amongst their friends and community and their household pleasures as long as they can, but be prepared for the next stage when they need to, rather than having to jump into it at the last minute, and then that's when the panic and the unsatisfactory outcomes come out. So
Sure.
yes, I had the pleasure of moving my parents from their home care into residential care up in Cleveland, and they were in a lovely place. Mum's still there.
Yep.
But it is a big challenge for the older people. So any support you can give them is worth twice as much as it costs.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what inspired you, was what happened in your own family. And I mean, you've got two other brothers and a sister, and it was a tough time for all of you to go through that process, as it is for every family that's going through this. What are the main issues that worry people that are looking at the aged care system, Jim? What are the 3 or 4 most important things that tend to worry people when they start looking at this?
To my mind, the nursing home structure of 20, 30 years ago still hangs around. Like most people imagine them as daunting, uncaring places. The facilities these days are available are really quite pleasant and quite modern, and really parents can be really quite comfortable there. And the other issue is just going through the assessment process with the government, and then understanding all the terms. Like, as I said before, RAD. Yeah, does it cost $500,000? How can I afford to pay that? But there are ways you can minimise that and pay a daily fee instead of the capital amount up front. The money's refundable; it's not lost. That's why it's called a refundable accommodation deposit. So the daunting thing for most old people is it just looks so expensive. How can I afford it? And what happens with my home, and if my spouse stays in my home and I move into aged care? So once you can explain that process through them and how don't worry, I can sort it out for you. It just takes a lot of the anxiety and stress of the move, and they can plan moves in a more positive way rather than a negative way.
Yeah. So when I say what are the main issues, I would have thought that for a lot of people it's just the unknown unknowns, a bit like what you said for your own family. So it's kind of like, we're at this stage of life, we're not sure mum or dad can stay at home much longer, but I just don't know where to start, who to talk with, what it's going to cost. Do I have, like you say, you have to sell your house, you're going to lose all your money and all those sorts of things. So it's the unknown unknowns, isn't it, that really, really stumbles people.
Which is exactly what I faced putting my parents in. And I'm really believe I'm a smart guy with a lot of commercial experience behind me, and even I was looking at black walls, so the unknown was definitely unknown there. Yeah. So imagine the old people trying to do that on their own, even.
Yeah, do people get scared, Jim? Does as a byproduct of not knowing what's going to happen and how to pay for it and what they can afford and can't afford? I mean, there must be a lot of very anxious people, I guess. And
very much so, Mark. And very much so. And there are options and on the financial side, which people can choose, more expensive or less expensive, or different ways to do it. There's the support of the family in the process, I think, is also very important if there's family around. But certainly the options these days and the government support is really quite amazing, even though there's been some bad press in the papers with the recent Royal Commission that to me really applies to a very small percentage of aged care facilities. And the bulk of them I've come across have been very caring and respectful and well-appointed places to go to. So it's
Gee, what a surprise. The Royal Commission finds out that 5% of the industry is bad, and so they penalise the whole industry. Sounds like financial services and banking. It sounds like every other Royal Commission that's ever happened. There's always just 2 or 3 bad eggs in the basket, and they kind of ruin it for everyone. But
well, I'm not the reputation just in the last 6 months or so, the number of people that are saying, I'm not going into aged care, I'm rather just pull the plug at home just because of the bad press in the Royal Commission. But I genuinely believe that the older people in our society just deserve that amount of respect, and I'm supportive of being protected. And they don't have much choice, but they're really valued members of our society, and they've contributed for their whole life. So we need to respect them and give them the care that they deserve. And someone said to me once, "You and I can just go to a doctor at will if we're not feeling well, but our poor aged people go through this horrendous process just to get care in the last stages of their life." So I think they do deserve that support and respect.
Sure. Jerry, what are the best bits of advice you give to people when they come and have a chat to you? I know you've dealt with a lot of people over the period of time you've been involved in this. So what's the best advice that you think that you can give people?
My best advice is don't stress. We can sort it. I can sort it with you. So take the anxiety out of it. I can explain all these terms in clear English and what they mean. So just don't stress about the thing, because it can be sorted. Really, there's other options. There's plenty of options around. So make sure you go and have a look at different facilities, get the right feel for what you want for your parents or what the parents want. In many cases, I've shown people a facility that I thought was like 10 out of 10 hotel type accommodation, and they've chosen a more sedate, older, more comfortable feeling place because that's how they feel their parents would be more comfortable. So make sure you have a look around. Don't be limited by your choices, and once you understand how it all works, you can make the right decisions.
So Jimmy, what you're really doing as part of your process that you go through with clients is to give them all those alternatives, isn't it? To help them understand what they don't know, to provide information and answer all the questions they might have, and that must be very comforting to people who are in that position, because, as I said, I'm sure people, when they get to this stage in life, actually become very scared, and probably the parents do first. They're wondering what's going on, and they're wondering what their kids are going to do to them, or where the kids are going to farm them off, and so on. And so this really is, as you say, it's an opportunity for a family conversation to get the kids together with mum and dad, get someone like you involved, because at the end of the day, what they're doing is they're just engaging you to as a starting point, aren't they? To they can engage you to find out what they need to know to start with, and then as time goes on, you can point them in the direction to help them with all areas of their life.
Yeah, and look, I just make a point of following right through the whole process to make sure they're happy and in the end. But I should point out, it's not all about residential aged care and or nursing home care. The government really does provide wonderful support for home care. There's 4 levels of support up to high needs at home, so you can get nursing services, and people don't appreciate that. But again, as I said earlier, I would encourage most people to stay at home in their comfortable environment near their friends and community as long as they can, but just be prepared for the next step.
Yeah, and what you do is actually make them aware of things that might be provided by the government, for example, which they currently have no idea of, and there could be thousands of dollars worth of benefits available to them that they have no awareness of. So your fee for actually going through and helping them understand what they don't know could end up providing them with tens of thousands of dollars worth of benefits, care, and so on. So
even more than that, I argue that my fee they'll recover in multiple times just by being able to negotiate on their prices for aged care, which people don't appreciate they can do. And there are some things that they can do to get their affairs in order. And on that point, even a little bit of a plug for you, but it's essential that even now, but as you get into your older age, you have your powers of attorneys in place, your enduring guardianship, and particularly your wills in place while you have your facilities. And if you leave it too late and you become incapacitated, it leaves a hell of a mess. But that's where Mark lives.
Well, you're right, Jimmy, and it raised a really good point too. Enduring powers of attorney, advanced health directors, all those sorts of things are just so essential, aren't they? And
Correct.
in a very early part of what you do, I'm sure you encourage people to go off and get those things sorted. So that
point number one it is.
point number
Have you got it
one,
done? Go and do it.
yeah, if you don't have that done, go start that straight away.
Correct.
So that's good. Now, how do people get in contact with you, Jim? What's your website and all that sort of stuff?
My website's called www.agedcarefacts.com.au, and that has my phone number and obviously email address on there.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no, that's good. So anyone wants to have a chat with Jim, just go to agedcarefacts with an s.com.au and track Jim down and have a chat with him then. But I just want to finish off today, Jim, too, with a couple of things away from what it is that you do. Somebody told me that you thought you were pretty good at golf, but I'm just trying to understand who's won the most games out of you and I. Just trying to get to the bottom of that. Oh, now we're going to hang up.
One of our friends wanted to pose a question to Mark during this interview about the number of balls Mark lost in one hole on the 17th at Sanctuary Cove, but he doesn't seem to come to the answering of that question.
Oh, I can't remember that. I'm sure there was a dozen there.
I think it was 10 or 12.
I think I did get on the
name.
green eventually, Jimmy. I did get to the green.
Very good.
No, that's right. Anyway, Jim, look, thanks for coming on today. It's been great. It's certainly been great chatting with you. And aged care is just one of those things at the moment, which, and I guess it's probably a reflection of our age as well. You being older, so it's probably more relevant to people you know, but even to people I know.
Well, look, just on that point, you and I know a lot more older people, and it's becoming more and more relevant to our lives, including our parents. And it's important that people get to understand how the next stage works. It's very, very important.
Yeah, and probably a good shout out to the children and the grandchildren of people that are at that age is not to wait too long to start the conversation, to come and have a chat to people like you, and certainly and I'm going to plug again here too is get your wills up to date, get your enduring powers of attorney up to date, and so on, because you're going to get to older people will get to a stage where they can't do their wills anymore if they've lost capacity, and they can't write an enduring power of attorney, and that is just such an important part of the whole process. So as I say, it's a conversation for children and for grandchildren to nudge the children of the older generation to start to take action. So Jimmy, you're doing a great thing. I'm really when you said you were going to head off in this direction a couple of years ago, I was really excited for you, because this is a really valuable thing that you do. And so well done in getting involved in this area. Maybe you can give me some advice in 40 years' time when it's my turn.
Thank you, Mark, and I appreciated your support over the last few years, as with some other of our good friends. And it's very satisfying for me, and hopefully we can help a lot more people through the journey.
Absolutely, and I'm going to go out and start practicing the 17th at Sanctuary Cove again. See you later, Jimmy. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mark. See ya. Bye.